I'm really looking forward to our
So am I.
conversation.
It's great to see you.
Likewise,
Great to
thank
see you.
you.
We'll start. We're in an era of, I would say, what do they call it? VUCA. Maximum volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
In the middle of this noise that we're living through, constant model launches, constant updates, this huge digital fear of missing out.
One of the things we think a lot about is the explainability of it. If investment professionals can't explain it, should we trust it?
There is this saying people have been saying of late that AI will not take your job. Someone with AI skills will take your job. I want to extend that actually.
When we look at some of the things that AI can do, you have this moment, this gut check. Are investment analysts, investment professionals, all the places where we see CFA charter holders still going to exist? Welcome everybody to tonight's discussion. We're delighted to have you here. We're really at a point where progress and intersection is part of this discussion, and that is how do we lead with humanity in an AI world? Technology, its scale, its speed, and its scope is certainly redefining innovation. Think how we balance speed with ethics, data with empathy. And we're going to unpack all of that with Pravin Goel, who is a managing director at BlackRock, and he brings a wealth of perspective and business insight, so really bringing the two together. And I am delighted that we are able to have this time together. So Pravin, over to you.
Thank you, Mark. It's a privilege to be here with you today and the CFA Institute. I have very high respect for what the Institute has been doing. The professional intelligence, the integrity, the transparency, I think is the crux of what you brought up, which is amazing. It wouldn't be a surprise for anyone to say we're living through a moment of transformation. AI is changing how we invest, but quite honestly, it's perhaps changing how we decide. It's automating intelligence, but it's not automating wisdom, and I think that matters. Ultimately, well-being is a human experience, not a digital outcome. And in the middle of this noise that we're living through, constant model launches, constant updates, this huge digital fear of missing out. I think leadership is less and less about knowing everything and more about knowing a few things, maybe a thing like your North Star. So how do we have leaders filter this noise, filter the signal from the noise with intent with that North Star? As they sometimes say, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Yeah. And that's not good. In this age, if you don't know where you're going, you'll clearly get lost. So I think the leadership today is around that leading with intent, leading with that calmness. But I'm equally interested in your perspective, from your vantage point. What does it mean to lead today?
Well, I think you've hit on a couple of things. One is the speed of decision making, not knowing everything, and even if you do, you still don't, right? We're in an era of, I would say, what do they call it? VUCA. Maximum volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. I think that we're talking about humanity and the type of leadership that's required is really important. If I think back 5 years ago to the COVID experience, we learned to adapt in really new ways immediately and rather effectively. And the reverb or after effects, I think, are still being really felt and understood now.
Yes. And
so since then, of course, we have AI, which is disruptive, and it's disruptive to how people are feeling about it. Am I going to have a job? What does it mean for me, specifically in how I contribute, add value? And so I think this idea of understanding humans is critical, and that as a leadership trait, as a leadership skill, which can be learned, is crucial. At the end of the day, you pointed out rightly that AI augments and automates certain things that humans do, but it is not accountable. And so I think this moment, coming out of COVID, gives us a real opportunity to reflect on what is it that leadership really is at its heart. We think about it as collectively delivering KPIs, meeting our targets and our benchmarks. That reconsideration, I think, is just so appropriate right now and kind of exciting. I know we had this conversation earlier that there's some real dimensions to it that make it much more interesting.
That resonates a whole lot, and it's interesting you bring up the COVID connection. That also really resonates in all the ways you talked about, and a specific one I want to double click on is especially during COVID, no one had a playbook, no one really could guarantee an outcome, but we could all leaders who stood out
Yeah.
could guarantee their orientation, could guarantee their intention, could guarantee their integrity. And I think in many ways, AI is in a similar phase. I don't know if I can guarantee an outcome on jobs, on this, on that, but I think leaders can guarantee how they would orient and that intention piece. So what you said really resonates. That COVID reference is also very helpful. I want to pivot from that to how do we really make it real? And one way I think about that is this notion of purpose. At BlackRock, every conversation around technology, and we'll get to the technology of AI in a second, but every conversation on technology starts with our purpose, which is helping more and more people experience financial well-being, and our purpose is not just to manage assets. It's also to enable human aspirations in their real lives. Homes, dignity, retirement, savings, security, things of that nature. And I know CFA has a really bold mission around leading the global investing community, ethically, with education, with integrity. How do you see the mission for CFA evolve as we put AI at the heart of some of this?
Yeah. Well, you won't be surprised that when we look at some of the things that AI can do, you have this moment, this gut check. Our investment analysts, investment professionals, risk managers, portfolio managers, and all the places where we see CFA charter holders still going to exist.
Yeah.
And of course, that's an instinctive response. And then that's the catalyst for a much more reflective, sober response. And I think that so many of the fundamentals endure irrespective of the era. It's just the how that we apply that. So CFA's mission is to lead the investment profession with the highest standards of ethics, education, and professional excellence for the ultimate benefit of society. And so your purpose at BlackRock and ours are very much aligned. How do we make sure that the investment industry isn't just for the investment industry, it's for ultimately better outcomes. This next generation, the how, and even the current generation are going to need to embrace AI. And I think in this current phase, as you say, we don't know what the outcomes are going to be, but in this current phase, reframing a threat to an opportunity is that there are many things when you start to parse it down that are grinding activities that can cause unintended risk, that can create suboptimal outcomes. And so AI right now has a real opportunity to automate activities, improve some of the outcomes. As you know, we're able to look at more data, different data, and process it efficiently, and to ask questions we just really couldn't ask before because you couldn't get the data, you couldn't get to the answers. Now we can do that pretty quickly. So I think that what we're looking at is the opportunity for investment professionals to do more, to add more value. And yet, every month, every quarter certainly, we're seeing new tools, new applications, and the speed of it is like nothing we've ever seen before. So where CFA Institute, I think, has a very unique opportunity is to really convene leaders and help shape and influence the industry where ethics is at the heart of AI systems architecture design. Because ultimately, when you take away some of those activities that we thought were very important, and the speed of these applications, you can go tool by tool by tool and end up with something that is really not what you intended to. So back to your intentional North Star, how does this improve outcomes, and how do we put the governance guardrails around it? How do we make sure that professionals are able to apply these tools, these capabilities, and the implications for the actual outcomes and activities that they're doing in a way that makes sure they are what we intended, not as just an outcome of activities that are consequences.
I love that. I love that bifurcation of activities, etc., from purpose and consequence. If that's okay, I want to build upon that a little bit. In many ways, AI is new. There's new tools, new everything that we just talked about. The speed is much faster, but in many ways, it's really been there for long. And again, at BlackRock, it's been part of DNA for decades. At least 2 decades. Our systematic teams built what we called augmented investment management years ago. More recently, we started using an AI research agent. We call it Asimov, that can scan thousands, hundreds of thousands actually, resources every day, only to empower the human insight. So that notion on the tasks versus the consequence, the purpose of it, I think that's a great anchor. And the other thing that really resonates there, Marg, is the people side of it. At BlackRock, across the firm now, more than 90% people use some form of Copilot every day. And to your point, this is not so they do lesser. In fact, this is so they do higher value work, so they think deeper. So what is it doing? Not just to the investing community, not just to our shareholders, but also our employees, our people. I think that's great, Anchor. And on that point, maybe I want to pause for a few seconds and I think create a little bit of a grasping moment here, Mark, if that's okay. In today's chatter around, especially this technology, there's so much of anxiety around everything is going to change.
Right.
Nothing will remain same forever. We don't know what, blah, blah, blah. But where I think last few minutes are going is it's going to be led by people. Leadership isn't going to remain as important, maybe more. Mission and purpose isn't changing. So I just want to create that space to say, really, it's anchored in the same good, old, stable human leadership.
We had the opportunity this afternoon to meet with some of Pravin's team members on the investment side and on the risk side. First of all, I found the conversation very exciting, and as you know, we could have spent hours there. But one of the things that I didn't get to ask in that conversation is in this AI transformation, and as you said, BlackRock for decades has been using quantitative techniques. So there's an algorithmic nature to it. There's the model, and the humans are shaping the model. But as we look at generative AI and this next generation of AI, one of the things we think a lot about is the explainability of it, interpretability of it. So I'll ask you the question as a launch pad for, if investment professionals can't explain it, should we trust it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do think we're first and foremost in the trust business.
Absolutely. You're right.
Trust is the currency for our industry, definitely for our fiduciary duty. And under that context, I think explainability is the language of that trust. So these things need to be explainable. These things need to be auditable. These things, like you said, AI is not accountable. We need accountability to build trust. So I think trust is the new alpha, so to speak. Has always been, is also true, but to the same theme that it's even more so. So I'd say a few things there. At BlackRock, for example, every use case goes through an AI approval committee run by people. Every use case is seen by the AI risk oversight committee run by people. So there is a huge guardrails around making sure whatever we do is explainable, is trustworthy, is reliable. And I like to say maybe a couple of things. I like to break that tension between governance is going to slow down innovation or vice versa. I think it's, if at all, these guardrails, these frameworks actually make the innovation sustainable. So
Right.
I actually think we should embrace it, and we do.
One of the things I want to pick up from you is this idea about what do you do with your time, plus explainability. And when you put the two together, what we do know is almost all of our research shows that investors, they want to know who the human in the loop is.
Yes.
That's going to be the interface. Maybe it's your portfolio strategists, it's the advisor in the mix. So the relationship becomes quite important.
Yes.
And what we thought was the relationship before, calling up, telling you your performance, discussing things that they can now find out online, is really going to require professionals to have excellent communication skills.
Correct.
They're going to be able to, they're going to need to be able to explain to clients how these things work.
Yeah.
It also affords them the opportunity to better understand their clients' needs. I think those conversations will become much more robust when we think about risk, when we think about what the objectives actually are. And I think AI will afford us just a whole host of pathways that we just couldn't explore before. And like many of these technologies, once you get started, it just spawns other stuff that we can't imagine right now.
Mark, that's very perceptive. I do think the mechanics of what we tell our clients can be automated, but not the relationship aspect of it. In many ways, I like to say EQ is the new IQ. Our relationship people need to know their clients. We've had this mechanical version of know your clients forever.
Right.
There is a new way of knowing your clients and explaining what they need to know, how they need to know, how much they need to know. So I think all of that really resonates. We definitely expect our people, especially in the client servicing space, to not just use technology, CRM and all of that, but use that to think deeper, to my earlier point, and communicate more effectively. So I echo a lot on that. The other piece I echo a lot on that is, I think the new skill is listening. Believe it or not, okay, like there's all this, give me a new novel, I don't know how many billions of parameters of a model, but how do you really listen with intent, like listen to learn, not to confirm? And that's going to be more and more important for our client relationship people, because if they want to be able to tell our clients what they need to know rather than what we have to give them as a report, I think there's a lot of human element again there. So that resonates a lot. If that's okay, I want to pivot into the opportunity in front of us. And when you talked about what you were saying, I can feel the connective tissue across CFA Institute and BlackRock around trust, around ethics, around delivering the good for the society and so on. As we look ahead, I'm really bullish actually on a lot of things, but definitely on India. And the India centers, some people call them global centers, capability, whatever. But I think that we call them innovation hubs, which is a living and breathing example of the BlackRock hub and spoke model, really. And over the years, we've become almost like the operating system, the front to end that the firm runs on, because in any other geography, people are focused on the specific client or a specific need, as they should. Whereas how do you bring the firm to the client comes to centers like what we have in India. So that's great. But then going back to being a fiduciary, not just for our clients, our stakeholders, shareholders, but also our people, I think it's important that we protect, to the extent possible, the futures we have. We are also a career fiduciary. And equally importantly, reimagine really exciting futures. So all of that is a longish way of saying, I think there's a great moment for CFA Institute to rethink, reimagine the upskilling.
Right.
That's the crux of where this could be really exciting versus maybe worrying. So I want to bring that to you around how is that evolving, the upskilling for the age of AI, evolving through CFA, and is there a way for centers in India to partner with you?
Well, so I'll have been here for a week, and I think India is very exciting. I mean, you have an exceptionally well-educated population, particularly in things like IT, but India is now our #1 market for new candidates. great ambition around wanting to be able to contribute in this era. And so I think, first of all, for career entrants, we've just launched our talent outlook. And so I'd encourage everybody who is online and thinking about it to take a look at it, because it'll give you good insight as to what's happening in the talent trend. But inevitably, it used to be that you could get your CFA charter, and then really that would carry you a long way, and experience would carry you the rest of the way. That was really a speed factor around what was happening in the industry, and kind of a linearity to the industry and what we do. In the last decade, it's gone very lateral and very fast. And so not only do early career entrants need to be skilled, think CFA program, but everybody in the industry needs upskilling and reskilling, and just simple things like climate just wasn't a thing when you and I began in our careers. Climate often is very financially material. So we see a great demand for people to understand, in the absence of data, in the absence of a history and a playbook you pull off the shelf, how do we think about these things? We certainly, private markets are now not just the domain of really just the largest pension plans and sovereign wealth funds and endowments. These are perilously close to being in the hands through tokenization of the retail investor. That changes the landscape of what an investment professional needs to know. And so much of our strategy right now is really centered on making sure that charter holders and more broadly investment professionals are really equipped to not only just perform but to lead in this industry. And it does require that we collaborate together. And of course, you do things for us here in the community. I will say India remains very exciting. And one thing that we see across the country is exactly what you've pointed out, which I think started really as a cost arbitrage, but has I think in the decade, in quite rapid fashion, has become a talent arbitrage. So we see more and more organizations that have the complete complex of talent, and I think you call it a microcosm of the industry in the world. So, I think that's a great phrase. I'm going to lift that one and attribute it to you.
Mark, that really resonates. There is this saying people have been saying of late, that AI will not take your job. Someone with AI skills will take your job. I want to extend that, actually. AI will not take your job. Someone with AI skill will not take your job. Someone with AI skills and the business knowledge for your business will take your job. Why don't you be that person who picks up these AI skills, because you have all the rest of it? So you be the person who take up your job. And to that point around talent program, I really encourage everyone to really embrace it. There's a real opportunity in the making here. Life is not a spectator sport. We don't have to be looking at, hey, is AI going to be good for my career or not? It'll be what we shape it to be. And that really resonated.
So I'm going to pick up from where you picked up from when you picked up from me. So we've actually done quite a bit of research in AI now for, maybe 6-7 years. And one of our early pieces really talked about the skills that are required, and T-shaped skills.
Yeah.
So somebody who has an area of expertise that they know really well, but the horizontal is the ability to connect the dots. And increasingly we see that as being systems thinkers, like how things work together and what the knock-on consequences are. So for those of you who are online, I'd encourage you to go to our AI handbook and look up T-shaped skills, as well as the investment professional of the future. And it'll really help you both articulate and then hopefully define the gaps that you might have in the competencies for that. And hopefully we have the resources for you to actually be able to close that gap so that you can be really competitive within this landscape. Because as you rightly pointed out, it's going to be an interesting dynamic. So agility, adaptability, lifelong learning has never been more important than now. So I think we're down to our last few minutes.
Yeah.
And what I took away from our prep conversation and our discussion with your colleagues is just this real sense of hope. which, is important as we seize the moment of things that can be, again, really disruptive and sometimes disturbing for people.
Yeah.
So what gives you hope? What do you think our audience should take away in terms of thinking about their own careers, thinking about the firms that they work for, and the ecosystem that we are collectively shaping as we go along?
That's great, Mark. And I love how we're closing back to where we started, the leadership element here. I do think we as leaders in the industry have that responsibility to balance all this chatter around anxiety, worry, etc. with hope. So I love that anchor on hope. What makes me very hopeful is I think even last few minutes have made it amply clear that the purpose isn't going away, the values isn't going away. It's going to remain in that mindset, skill set, tool set framing where the mindset is around values. I'm increasingly confident the future of investing is not in algorithms alone. It's through people who would integrate intelligence with integrity. Dare I even say, who would balance the crazy speed with calmness and steadiness. So I think that man and machine combination, in some ways, has always been the case, will always be the case. But I'm very hopeful. The future is very bright as long as we take action and not end up making this as a spectator sport. There's so much to do. The opportunity is amazing. It's great to be living through this age. But what gives me hope is we could shape it.
Great. I might add from our perspective a couple of things. One is that this ability to separate signal from noise has ever been present in the, I would say, the wisdom of investing. And so I don't think that changes. How we're doing it may be more about what the governance around the decision making is, what the inputs to the decision making, rather than some of the things we've historically done. I also think that many of the things that come with artificial intelligence should help us understand our clients better. We could be able to reimagine risk, reimagine return, reimagine what the objectives are. So I think we're in the automation productivity phase, actually, is probably the better way to describe it right now. But I am quite hopeful with collaboration and cooperation, trying to reduce fragmentation, getting the leading minds, academics, practitioners, technologists together, that we can really help shape the way this will play out, and that it really is for the betterment of society and not for the benefit of a few. And I don't think it's an easy task. But I think when we both talked earlier is that when we both began in the industry, like what an exciting, interesting industry. And as people say, may you live in interesting times. I don't think it's ever been more interesting than it is now. So I really want to thank you for this conversation. It's exciting to be here in India, which is just right at the forefront of innovation, and really both domestically and internationally. It is wonderful to talk to you, and to also thank you for having me with your colleagues earlier today.
Thank you, Mark. It's nice to be talking, and it's really great to be with you today. Thank you.
Great.